By 6:45 p.m. on that Friday evening, while I was still stranded inside Savimart during the worst thunderstorm in Colorado Springs history, my daughter Jessica would discover that the 2023 BMW X5 she had just driven away in was no longer in her driveway, sold to a cash buyer for $62,000 right there in that flooded parking lot, all because she had screamed, "Figure it out yourself, Mom," while abandoning her 70-year-old mother in a store with no power, no cell service, and tornado warnings blaring, never knowing that her helpless old mother actually owned the luxury car dealership where they'd gotten their employee discount and controlled a $4.20 million automotive empire that had been funding their entire lifestyle without them ever realizing who was really paying for their comfortable suburban life. Before we dive into this incredible story of family abandonment and the $180,000 luxury vehicle that disappeared from their driveway before they even made it home from the storm, make sure to hit that like button, drop a comment telling me about your worst experience with ungrateful family members during emergency situations, and subscribe so you never miss stories like this one about what happens when people assume their elderly parents are helpless burdens and discover just how wrong they can be when basic human decency gets abandoned for personal convenience and selfish priorities. My name is Eleanor Hartwell. I'm 70 years old, and this story begins 3 years ago when I made what seemed like a generous decision to help my struggling daughter and her family by providing them with reliable transportation through my automotive business connections. A decision that would reveal their true character and teach them the most expensive lesson about abandoning elderly parents during storms when you assume they're powerless and unable to defend themselves against family members who view them as inconvenient obligations rather than people deserving respect, care, and basic consideration during emergency weather situations. But to understand how I ended up being abandoned in a powerless grocery store during a tornado warning while secretly controlling the financing on every vehicle in my daughter's family fleet, you need to know who I was before inheriting my late husband's automotive empire changed everything, and before Jessica's assumptions about my helplessness led her to make the most catastrophic mistake of her personal and financial life. For 38 years, I was Eleanor Hartwell, Senior Operations Manager at Mountain Peak Auto Group, Colorado's largest independent automotive dealership network serving customers across Denver, Colorado Springs, Pueblo, Fort Collins, and Grand Junction with new and certified pre-owned vehicles, commercial fleet services, and automotive financing solutions for individuals and businesses throughout the Rocky Mountain region. I wasn't just processing paperwork or scheduling service appointments, I was the strategic operations architect responsible for managing inventory logistics across 17 dealership locations, coordinating multi-million-dollar vehicle acquisitions from manufacturers worldwide, implementing customer service protocols that maintained our reputation as the most trusted automotive group in the western United States, and overseeing financing partnerships that helped tens of thousands of families access reliable transportation while building long-term customer relationships based on integrity, transparency, and genuine care for our clients' transportation needs and financial circumstances. My responsibilities encompassed analyzing complex market trends that determined which vehicles to stock across our dealership network during seasonal fluctuations and economic uncertainty, developing comprehensive customer service training programs that ensured every client received exceptional treatment regardless of their budget constraints or credit situation, coordinating with dozens of banks and credit unions to secure favorable financing terms for customers with challenging credit histories, implementing inventory management systems that kept our lots stocked with the vehicles our communities needed while maintaining profitability and competitive pricing that made quality transportation accessible to working families throughout Colorado, and supervising daily operations that affected over 400 employees across our dealership network and thousands of customers who depended on us for reliable transportation, honest service, and fair business practices. But these achievements only tell part of the story about the complexity and critical importance of automotive operations management at the regional level. When you're responsible for ensuring that 17 dealerships maintain adequate inventory during supply chain disruptions, that financing options remain available for customers during economic uncertainty, and that service departments provide reliable maintenance that keeps families safely on the road, every operational decision affects thousands of people's daily transportation needs, work commutes, family logistics, and the economic stability of entire communities that depend on reliable automotive services and fair, honest business practices that prioritize customer welfare over short-term profit maximization. During the 2008 financial crisis that devastated the automotive industry and forced countless dealerships into bankruptcy while leaving customers stranded with worthless warranties and no recourse for service or support, I coordinated survival strategies that literally saved our dealership network and preserved jobs for over 400 employees across our locations. Working 18-hour days for 10 months straight, I restructured inventory financing in real time, negotiated with manufacturers to maintain favorable terms despite plummeting sales volumes, managed cash flow crises that threatened to destroy our business relationships with suppliers and lenders, and implemented emergency operational protocols that allowed our dealerships to continue serving customers while competitors closed their doors permanently and abandoned their customer service. Obligations.I remember specifically working with the Rodriguez family, who owned a small construction business and needed reliable work trucks to maintain their contracts and support their 8 employees and their families. When the financial crisis hit, their business credit was frozen and traditional automotive financing became impossible through banks and credit unions that had tightened lending requirements. I personally worked with 3 different lenders, restructured their fleet financing across multiple vehicles, and implemented a flexible payment plan that allowed them to keep their trucks operational while the construction industry recovered from the recession. The Rodriguez family not only survived the economic downturn but expanded their business and eventually purchased additional vehicles from us, becoming one of our most loyal commercial customers because we treated them with dignity and flexibility. During their most challenging period, rather than prioritizing our immediate profit over their business survival, Mountain Peak Auto Group specialized in serving working families, small businesses, teachers, healthcare workers, first-time car buyers, and community organizations who needed reliable transportation but often faced credit challenges or budget constraints that made traditional automotive financing difficult or impossible through conventional lenders who focused primarily on customers with perfect credit and substantial down payments. A mistake in customer financing could destroy a family's transportation options and jeopardize their employment stability. Errors in inventory management could leave communities without access to affordable, reliable vehicles during times when transportation was most critical for economic survival. Failures in service operations could strand customers with unreliable transportation and no recourse for repairs or warranty support that they had paid for and depended on for their daily transportation needs. My expertise in automotive operations extended beyond our dealership network to consulting relationships with automotive manufacturers, financing institutions, and industry associations throughout the Rocky Mountain region and across the western United States. I helped smaller dealerships implement operational systems that improved customer service and financial stability, trained automotive professionals in customer relations and ethical sales practices that prioritized customer welfare over commission maximization, and developed financing protocols that other dealership groups could adapt to serve customers with challenging credit situations while maintaining profitability and regulatory compliance with state and federal lending requirements. One of my most significant consulting achievements involved working with Summit Valley Auto, a struggling dealership in a rural Colorado community that was facing closure due to poor management and customer service problems that had destroyed their reputation and eliminated their customer base over several years of unethical business practices. I spent 2 years restructuring their operations, implementing customer service training that rebuilt community trust and restored their reputation for honest dealing, and developing financing partnerships that made their dealership viable again, while ensuring they could serve the transportation needs of their rural community where automotive services were essential for residents' economic opportunities and quality of life. The result was a remarkable transformation, a 340% increase in customer satisfaction scores, restored profitability that allowed them to retain their employees and continue serving their community, and a thriving business that now employs 22 people in a community where automotive services are essential for residents' transportation needs, agricultural operations, and economic opportunities that depend on reliable vehicles and honest business relationships. These consulting opportunities provided substantial additional income that enhanced our family's already comfortable financial position, but more importantly, they gave me comprehensive understanding of how financial stress reveals character, how family relationships change when people assume elderly relatives are dependent on their assistance, and how adult children often exploit their parents' generosity when they believe those parents are powerless to defend themselves against manipulation and abandonment during difficult situations that require genuine family support and sacrifice. The most disturbing cases I encountered involved elderly customers whose adult children systematically exploited their parents' automotive needs and transportation dependence. I witnessed heartbreaking situations where successful professionals would manipulate their aging parents into co-signing vehicle loans under false pretenses, claiming temporary credit problems while actually using their parents' good credit to finance luxury vehicles for their own use, leaving elderly parents responsible for payments on cars they never drove while struggling with their own transportation needs and fixed retirement incomes that couldn't accommodate unexpected financial obligations. I remember the case of Dorothy Chen, An 82-year-old retired librarian whose son convinced her to co-sign a lease for what he claimed was a reliable family car that would be used primarily for transportation to her medical appointments and grocery shopping. Dorothy believed she was helping ensure her own transportation needs while assisting her son during what he described as a temporary financial difficulty caused by unexpected medical expenses. But I discovered through our financing department that he had actually leased a luxury sports car that he used for personal entertainment and social activities while leaving Dorothy dependent on unreliable public transportation and expensive taxi services for her medical appointments and essential errands. By the time Dorothy realized the extent of his deception, she was responsible for lease payments of $800 monthly for a vehicle she had never seen or driven, while struggling to afford basic transportation for her healthcare needs and daily living requirements on her fixed retirement income. The situation was particularly heartbreaking because Dorothy had trusted her son completely and had signed the financing documents without fully understanding that she was taking financial responsibility for a vehicle that would never benefit her transportation needs or improve her quality of life. But beyond professional achievements and expertise, my automotive career had taught me invaluable lessons about human nature, family dynamics, and how people's behavior changes dramatically when they believe they can exploit elderly relatives who appear dependent on others for transportation, mobility, and basic independence that younger people take for granted. These lessons would prove crucial when evaluating my own daughter's character and her treatment of me during situations that required genuine family support rather than calculated assistance based on perceived obligation or expected inheritance. Benefits. I had observed thousands of family automotive transactions during financing and sales processes over nearly 4 decades in the automotive industry. I had seen devoted families who honored elderly relatives and included them respectfully in transportation decisions, making sacrifices to ensure their parents maintained mobility and independence during their later years. These families understood that transportation independence is fundamental to dignity, autonomy, and quality of life for elderly people who want to remain active members of their communities rather than becoming isolated and dependent on others for basic mobility needs. But I had also witnessed families who exploited elderly members when transportation became challenging, who viewed aging relatives as burdens whose mobility needs were inconvenient obligations rather than understanding that supporting elderly family members' transportation independence requires patience, flexibility, and genuine commitment to their well-being and community participation. These families would use safety concerns as justification for eliminating their parents' autonomy while actually seeking to control and manipulate them through transportation dependence. These observations had given me sophisticated understanding of transportation exploitation patterns and the warning signs that indicate when people view elderly relatives as inconvenient obligations rather than family members deserving respect, support, and accommodation during weather emergencies and challenging situations that require family cooperation and mutual care. The warning signs were consistently similar across different families and situations. Adult children who suddenly became very controlling about their parents' transportation when driving became more challenging, often using exaggerated safety concerns as justification for eliminating elderly parents' independence and mobility options. Adult children who gradually took control of their parents' vehicle ownership, insurance arrangements, and transportation decisions under the guise of helping with logistics, while actually reducing their parents' autonomy and creating dependence that could be exploited for control and manipulation purposes. Most concerning were the adult children who systematically isolated their elderly parents from transportation options, friends, and community activities by restricting their mobility and creating artificial dependence on family members for basic errands, social activities, and essential services. These manipulative family members would convince their parents that independent transportation was too dangerous or expensive, that family members were the only reliable transportation option, and that gratitude and compliance were expected in exchange for basic mobility assistance that should be provided willingly and without conditions or manipulation tactics. My marriage to Robert Hartwell had been a partnership built on shared values, entrepreneurial vision, and complementary business skills that made us incredibly successful in building automotive wealth while maintaining strong family relationships and community involvement throughout Colorado's automotive industry. Robert was an automotive entrepreneur who had started with a single used car lot in 1978 and gradually built an impressive network of dealerships specializing in reliable transportation for working families, small businesses, and first-time car buyers who needed honest advice and fair financing rather than high-pressure sales tactics and exploitative lending practices that prioritize dealer profit over customer welfare. Robert's business philosophy was customer-centered and community-focused. He identified underserved markets where families struggled to find reliable transportation and fair financing. established dealerships that prioritized customer service and long-term relationships over short-term profit maximization, and developed financing partnerships that helped people with challenging credit situations access dependable vehicles without predatory lending practices that would create financial hardship or transportation insecurity for families who needed reliable transportation for employment and daily life activities. Robert had an exceptional understanding of the automotive needs of working families and the critical importance of reliable transportation for employment stability, family logistics, and community participation. In 1985, he opened our first dealership specifically focused on certified pre-owned vehicles with comprehensive warranties, recognizing that many families needed dependable transportation but couldn't afford new vehicle prices or qualify for traditional automotive financing through banks and credit unions that required perfect credit and substantial down payments. His market analysis proved remarkably successful. By 1995, our certified pre-owned program had become the most trusted source for reliable used vehicles in Colorado Springs and the surrounding communities, serving teachers, healthcare workers, service industry employees, construction workers, and small business owners who needed dependable transportation but faced budget constraints or credit challenges that made traditional automotive financing difficult or impossible through conventional lenders. The dealership that Robert had opened to serve underserved families had generated over $12 million in sales while helping thousands of families access reliable transportation that improved their employment opportunities and quality of life. Over 25 years of careful business development and dedicated community service, Robert had built an automotive empire that included 8 dealership locations strategically positioned throughout Colorado. These dealerships served working families, small businesses, and community organizations that appreciated Robert's unwavering commitment to fair pricing, honest service, and financing options that helped people improve their transportation situation without creating financial hardship or long-term debt problems that would compromise their economic stability. Robert's approach to automotive business was based on the fundamental principle that sustainable success required building genuine relationships with customers based on trust, transparency, and long-term value rather than short-term profit maximization that exploited customers' transportation needs and financial vulnerabilities. This philosophy created a loyal customer base that generated repeat business and referrals that sustained our dealerships through economic downturns and industry challenges that forced many competitors out of business. One particularly memorable example of Robert's business philosophy involved a young teacher named Sarah Martinez who needed reliable transportation for her job at a rural elementary school but had been turned down for automotive financing at several dealerships due to student loan debt and limited credit history. When most dealers would have offered predatory financing with high interest rates and unrealistic payment terms, Robert worked personally with Sarah to structure affordable financing that fit her teacher's salary and helped her build positive credit history while accessing the reliable transportation she needed for her career and community service. Sarah not only successfully completed her financing and maintained perfect payment history, but she became one of our most loyal customers and referred dozens of other teachers and community members to our dealerships over the years. Robert's willingness to work with customers who faced financing challenges created loyalty and community trust that enhanced our business reputation while helping families access transportation that improved their economic opportunities and community participation. The total automotive empire value had reached $4.2 million by 2020, generating annual profits of $380,000 from customers who had remained loyal for years because they valued Robert's integrity, fair pricing, and commitment to helping families access reliable transportation that enhanced their lives rather than simply extracting maximum profit without regard for customer well-being or long-term transportation needs. Our customer retention rate exceeded 85%, which was remarkable in an industry where customer loyalty is often compromised by high-pressure sales tactics and poor service experiences. But Robert was also a keen observer of human behavior who had noticed concerning patterns in our daughter Jessica's approach to money, responsibility, and family relationships that suggested she might not be prepared for the ethical standards required for managing substantial business assets and customer relationships that affect many families' transportation needs and financial security. These observations would prove prophetic as Jessica's character revealed itself through her treatment of me during situations that required genuine family support rather than calculated assistance based on perceived obligation. Robert had observed that Jessica consistently demonstrated patterns of entitlement and self-interest that concerned him about her ability to handle inherited wealth responsibly. During family discussions about business operations and customer service philosophy, Jessica would focus primarily on profit maximization and efficiency rather than understanding the community service aspects of our automotive business and the Importance of treating customers with dignity and respect regardless of their economic circumstances. Eleanor, Jessica is intelligent and capable of learning business operations, Robert had explained to me during one of our evening conversations about legacy planning and family business succession, but she consistently demonstrates patterns of viewing people in terms of their usefulness to her rather than understanding that business success requires genuine care for customers and community welfare. This attitude could be disastrous if she ever gained control of businesses that affect so many families' transportation needs and financial security. Robert had noticed that Jessica's approach to employment and career development consistently involved seeking positions that offered maximum compensation for minimum effort, rather than pursuing opportunities to develop skills, build professional relationships, or contribute meaningfully to organizations that could benefit from her intelligence and potential. She viewed work as something to be endured for financial compensation rather than understanding that career success requires dedication, service to others, and commitment to excellence that benefits customers, colleagues, and community members. During Jessica's college years at Colorado State University, she had majored in business administration with a focus on marketing, but her approach to internships and part-time employment revealed troubling patterns that would later characterize her approach to family financial relationships and her assumptions about inherited wealth and family business opportunities. Jessica seems to view every job as beneath her capabilities and every supervisor as incompetent. Her internship coordinator, Dr. Michael Thompson, had explained to Robert during a feedback conversation about Jessica's performance at a local marketing firm. She arrives precisely on time and leaves exactly when her shift ends, never volunteering for additional projects or showing initiative to learn beyond her basic assigned tasks. More concerning, Dr. Thompson continued, Jessica has made several comments about the internship stipend being insufficient and has asked about opportunities for additional compensation or expense reimbursements that aren't part of the program structure. She seems more focused on maximizing her financial benefit than on gaining experience or proving her value to potential employers. When Robert shared this feedback with Jessica, hoping to help her understand that internships were learning opportunities rather than employment entitlements, Jessica's response revealed her fundamental misunderstanding of how professional relationships and career development actually work in the real world where success requires dedication and service to others. Dad, I'm providing valuable work for this company, and I deserve to be compensated fairly for my time and effort, Jessica had argued with the confidence of someone who believed that showing up was sufficient contribution to warrant maximum compensation. The other interns are spending extra time on projects that don't directly benefit them, but I'm focused on maintaining work-life balance and ensuring I'm properly compensated for my contributions to the company's success. This pattern of selectively interpreting guidance to justify self-serving behavior while ignoring the broader lessons about character, relationship building, and long-term thinking would become a hallmark of Jessica's approach to family financial relationships throughout her college years and into her adult life, when she would assume that my automotive business success was something she was entitled to inherit regardless of her character or treatment of family members. Looking back now, with the clarity that comes from painful experience and expensive lessons about family loyalty, I can see that Jessica's character flaws weren't sudden developments that emerged during her adult years when money became more readily available. They were consistent patterns that had been evident since childhood but that Robert and I had consistently rationalized, excused, or attributed to normal developmental phases rather than recognizing them as fundamental personality traits that would define her approach to family relationships and financial responsibilities throughout her adult life. When she assumed she was entitled to inherit our automotive empire, Jessica had always been what teachers diplomatically called clever but self-serving during her academic years at Woodland Elementary School in Colorado Springs. From kindergarten through high school graduation, she demonstrated exceptional strategic thinking and social manipulation skills that made her popular with some teachers and classmates, but she consistently struggled with genuine empathy, sustained effort on challenging tasks, and follow-through on commitments that didn't provide immediate personal recognition or tangible benefits for her own goals and interests that prioritized her advancement over collective success or community welfare. During her elementary school years, Jessica excelled in subjects that allowed her to leverage her natural intelligence without requiring sustained effort or collaborative work, standardized tests where her quick thinking gave her significant advantages over classmates, individual projects where her creativity and presentation abilities impressed teachers and parents, and competitive activities where her strategic mind allowed her to outperform other students without requiring the consistent study habits and disciplined practice that many children needed to achieve similar results and academic recognition. But Jessica would consistently avoid activities that required patience, sustained collaborative effort, or working with classmates who might slow down her progress or limit her individual achievement and recognition. Group projects became exercises in either manipulating teammates to do most of the work while she received equal credit, or contributing the absolute minimum effort if she felt her teammates weren't capable of helping her achieve the recognition and superior performance that she considered essential for her self-image and future opportunities for advancement and success. Jessica is exceptionally bright and has tremendous potential for academic achievement, her fourth-grade teacher, Mrs. Patterson, wrote in a parent conference report that I still remember word for word because it captured something troubling about Jessica's approach to relationships and collaboration even at 9 years old. However, she seems to have significant difficulty understanding why she should help other children succeed when it doesn't directly benefit her own academic standing or social status within the classroom community. When Robert and I discussed this feedback with Jessica, trying to help her understand the importance of kindness, cooperation, and helping others succeed alongside her own achievements, her response revealed the self-centered thinking patterns that would characterize her approach to relationships throughout her childhood and into her adult career and family interactions when she believed she deserved special treatment and recognition. Mom and Dad, why should I spend my time helping kids who can't keep up with the lessons? She asked with genuine puzzlement, as if concern for others' success was an unreasonable expectation that interfered with her individual academic progress and future opportunities. If I spend too much time teaching other people things they should already know, I might miss opportunities for advanced classes and special recognition programs that could help me get into better schools later and improve my chances for college scholarships and career success. At 9 years old, Jessica was already developing sophisticated justifications for selfishness that made her lack of empathy and unwillingness to support others sound like logical academic strategy rather than recognizing that her reluctance to help classmates reflected fundamental character issues that would create problems in future relationships and collaborative situations throughout her personal and professional life. Jessica, part of being a good person and a valuable community member is caring about others and helping when we have the ability to make a positive difference, Robert explained patiently, hoping to instill values of compassion, cooperation, and community responsibility that would serve her throughout her life. Your mother and I have always taught you that success means lifting others up, not just advancing yourself at their expense or ignoring their needs when you could easily provide assistance. But Dad, you also taught me that I should work hard and do my best in school to prepare for college and career success, Jessica replied, using Robert's lessons about achievement to justify behavior that Robert would have found disappointing and contrary to his actual values about character development and community service. I think you and Mom would want me to focus on my own excellence rather than getting distracted by other people's problems and limitations that aren't my responsibility and might hurt my academic performance. This pattern of selectively remembering lessons that supported her preferred behavior while ignoring values that would require her to sacrifice convenience or personal advantage for others would become a hallmark of Jessica's character throughout her childhood, teenage years, and adult life, including her approach to family financial relationships and her assumptions about my role in supporting her lifestyle and business ventures without expecting genuine care or respect in return. During 5th grade, the concerning patterns intensified when Jessica's teacher, Mr. Rodriguez, specifically requested a parent conference to discuss Jessica's approach to teamwork, peer relationships, and classroom dynamics that had become disruptive to learning environments and concerning from a social development perspective that could affect her long-term relationship skills and collaborative abilities in future academic and professional settings. Jessica is clearly one of the most intellectually gifted students I've taught in 22 years of elementary education, Mr. Rodriguez explained during our meeting at Woodland Elementary, but she consistently demonstrates attitudes toward classmates that suggest she views other children as either useful for achieving her goals or as obstacles to be avoided or manipulated rather than as potential friends, collaborators, or community members deserving basic respect and consideration, regardless of their academic abilities or usefulness to her personal success. What specific behaviors are you observing that concern you? I asked, feeling defensive about criticism of Jessica's academic focus and achievement orientation, but also genuinely worried about reports of social difficulties that could affect her emotional development and future relationship capabilities in both personal and professional contexts. Yesterday during our group science project about renewable energy systems, Jessica told her 3 teammates that they were too slow and too disorganized to contribute meaningfully to the assignment that would affect everyone's grade, Mr. Rodriguez explained with obvious concern about the impact of her behavior on other children's self-confidence and classroom morale. She then reorganized the entire project according to her preferences, assigned specific tasks to each teammate without consulting them about their interests or abilities, and made it clear that she expected them to follow her instructions exactly, rather than contributing their own ideas or creative approaches to the assignment that could have improved the final result. When I explained that group projects are designed to teach collaboration skills and that leadership requires listening to teammates and incorporating their input, Jessica's response was that she didn't care about other students' feelings or ideas as long as the group received the highest possible grade for their project performance. She said, and I quote, "Mr. Rodriguez, I'm not responsible for making other kids feel good about themselves. I'm responsible for making sure our group gets an A, and that means organizing the project efficiently rather than wasting time on ideas that won't improve our grade or help us win the science fair competition." This incident should have been a major warning sign that Jessica was developing concerning attitudes about relationships, teamwork, and responsibilities to others that required immediate attention, correction, and character development guidance. But instead of recognizing it as a serious character issue that needed intensive intervention, Robert and I chose to interpret her behavior as the natural result of being intellectually advanced in an educational system that didn't always provide appropriate challenges or recognition for gifted students who needed more stimulating academic environments. "She's just very driven and wants to excel academically," I explained to Mr. Rodriguez, unconsciously making excuses for behavior that was clearly problematic and hurtful to other children. "Jessica has always been competitive and focused on high achievement. Maybe she just needs to be placed with other students who can match her intellectual level and won't slow down her learning process or hold back her academic potential." "Mrs. Hartwell, the concerning issue isn't Jessica's intelligence or academic drive," Mr. Rodriguez replied gently but firmly, trying to help us understand that we were missing the real problem. "The issue is her complete lack of concern for how her actions affect other people and her willingness to hurt others emotionally or manipulate them to achieve her personal goals. These are character problems that go far beyond academic placement or intellectual challenge. Jessica needs to learn that success achieved by excluding, dismissing, or manipulating others isn't genuine success and won't serve her well in future educational, professional, or personal relationships," he continued with the wisdom of an experienced educator who had observed many bright children struggle with social development. "If she doesn't develop empathy and collaborative skills now, she'll face significant difficulties with teamwork and relationship building throughout her life, regardless of how intelligent or academically successful she becomes." This conversation should have prompted serious reflection about Jessica's character development and immediate intervention to address her concerning attitudes about relationships, cooperation, and responsibilities to others. But Robert and I were dealing with demanding careers, financial pressures from expanding our automotive business, and the general stress of parenting, and we found it easier to focus on Jessica's academic achievements rather than confronting difficult behavioral issues that would require sustained attention, professional guidance, and potentially uncomfortable family conversations about values and expectations. "She'll learn to work better with others when she's around people who can keep up with her intellectually," we rationalized, convincing ourselves that Jessica's selfishness and lack of empathy were temporary phases that would resolve naturally as she matured and found more appropriate peer groups in advanced academic programs and gifted education environments. But the pattern continued and actually intensified during middle school years at Pikes Peak Preparatory Academy, where Jessica's exceptional academic abilities earned her placement in accelerated courses and gifted programs that provided intellectual challenges but also created new opportunities for her to demonstrate her unwillingness to support others or prioritize group success over individual recognition and achievement. In 7th grade, Jessica joined the school's debate team, which should have been an excellent opportunity for her to learn teamwork while pursuing intellectual challenges that matched her capabilities and provided outlets for her competitive nature and strategic thinking abilities. But her approach to team participation revealed the depth of her self-centered thinking and her fundamental inability to understand that group success required individual sacrifice, mutual support, and genuine concern for teammates' development and performance. Jessica is incredibly knowledgeable and performs excellently during individual debate rounds, her debate coach, Ms. Thompson, explained during a parent meeting requested to discuss team dynamics and Jessica's impact on overall team performance and morale. But she consistently undermines team effectiveness by refusing to help struggling team members improve their performance and by openly expressing frustration and contempt for teammates who don't match her analytical level or argumentation skills. "What specific behaviors are you observing?" Robert asked, hoping the issues were minor communication problems that could be resolved through better team role definitions or adjusted expectations rather than fundamental character issues that would require more intensive intervention and professional guidance. During practice sessions, Jessica develops arguments quickly and presents them persuasively, demonstrating impressive knowledge across multiple debate topics and exceptional analytical thinking, Ms. Thompson explained. But when teammates struggle with similar arguments or need additional time to research and develop their positions, she makes comments like, "This is obviously basic logic," or "How do you not understand something this fundamental?" rather than offering assistance, encouragement, or constructive guidance that could help improve overall team performance. More concerning, when I've asked Jessica to help mentor newer team members or share research strategies that have made her successful, she's consistently refused, saying that other students' poor performance isn't her responsibility and that she shouldn't have to sacrifice her own preparation time to help people who aren't smart enough to be competitive debaters anyway. Just last week, during our preparation for the regional debate tournament, I asked Jessica to work with Amanda, one of our newer team members, to help her improve her rebuttal techniques. Jessica's response was, "Ms. Thompson, I joined debate team to win tournaments and build my college application portfolio, not to be a tutor for students who should already know basic debate skills. If Amanda can't keep up with team requirements, maybe she should consider joining less competitive activities that match her intellectual abilities." This feedback revealed that Jessica's selfishness was becoming more pronounced and calculated. As she matured, rather than improving through natural social development or learning from educational experiences designed to teach cooperation and mutual support, she was actively choosing to prioritize her individual success over team achievement and was willing to hurt others emotionally to maintain her sense of superiority and competitive dominance. When Robert and I discussed this behavior with Jessica, her response demonstrated that she had developed increasingly sophisticated justifications for her lack of empathy and unwillingness to support others, making her selfishness sound like logical strategy rather than character flaws that needed correction and professional intervention. Mom and Dad, I joined debate team to challenge myself intellectually and compete at high levels that will enhance my college application portfolio and demonstrate my analytical capabilities to admissions committees, she explained with the kind of confident, analytical tone that made her selfishness sound like responsible academic planning. If other students can't keep up with team requirements, that's not my fault, and it's not my job to fix their academic deficiencies or emotional problems that prevent them from competing effectively. But Jessica, part of being on a team is helping your teammates succeed and contributing to overall group performance that benefits everyone, Robert replied, trying to help her understand basic principles of collaboration, leadership, and mutual support that would be essential for future success in college, career, and personal relationships. "But Dad, if I spend my limited time teaching other people things they should already know for competitive debate, I won't have adequate time to prepare properly for my own debate rounds," she argued with logic that made her self-focus sound like strategic time management. "That could hurt my individual performance scores and reduce my chances for debate scholarships, academic recognition, and college admissions advantages that could determine my entire future and career opportunities." Besides, she added, revealing the depth of her self-centered thinking and lack of empathy for others, if these kids can't handle debate team requirements without constant tutoring and emotional support, maybe they shouldn't be on the team in the first place. The team would be stronger and more successful with better students who don't need remedial help to meet basic performance standards. Jessica was 13 years old and already demonstrating the kind of ruthless self-interest and dismissive attitude toward others that would characterize her approach to family relationships, business partnerships, and financial responsibilities throughout her adult life. She viewed other people as either useful for achieving her goals or as obstacles to be avoided or eliminated, rather than understanding that relationships require mutual care, support, and consideration regardless of immediate personal benefit or convenience. The most troubling aspect of this pattern was that Jessica's selfishness and lack of empathy were often rewarded in academic and social contexts that prioritized individual achievement over character development and collaborative skills. Her high test scores, debate tournament victories, academic awards, and articulate presentation abilities earned praise from teachers, admiration from peers, and recognition from college preparation programs, while her unwillingness to support others was often overlooked or excused as the natural behavior of a high-achieving student focused on academic excellence and competitive success. During 8th and 9th grades at Pikes Peak Preparatory Academy, Jessica's academic success continued to mask her character flaws and provide justification for increasingly self-centered behavior that prioritized her individual achievement over family relationships, community involvement, and moral development. That Robert and I had tried to emphasize throughout her childhood and early adolescence. She earned straight A's in advanced placement courses, won regional mathematics competitions, received recognition for her debate team performances, and was accepted into prestigious summer academic programs that enhanced her high school preparation and college prospects. But her approach to family responsibilities during this period revealed the concerning patterns that would eventually define her treatment of me during my later years, when she believed I was financially vulnerable and dependent on her support and assistance. When Robert was diagnosed with early-stage prostate cancer in late 2016, during Jessica's freshman year of high school, our family faced the first major crisis that would test Jessica's willingness to sacrifice her convenience and academic priorities to support family members during medical treatment and recovery that required everyone to contribute more time, energy, and emotional support than normal family routines demanded. But Jessica's response to Robert's cancer diagnosis revealed her fundamental inability to prioritize family needs over her personal comfort, academic interests, and social activities. Instead of recognizing that her father was facing a potentially serious illness that required family unity, flexibility, and mutual support during treatment and recovery, Jessica seemed to view Robert's cancer as an inconvenient disruption to her academic pursuits, extracurricular activities, and social plans that shouldn't be allowed to interfere with her individual goals and timeline for success. Jessica, Dad has been diagnosed with prostate cancer and will need surgery and possibly other treatments over the next several months, I explained during a family meeting after Robert's initial oncology consultation and treatment planning appointment. That means everyone taking on additional household responsibilities and being supportive and understanding while Dad goes through medical procedures and recovery that might affect his energy levels and availability for normal family activities. Jessica's immediate response was revealing and deeply troubling. How long is Dad's cancer treatment expected to last? Because I have some really important academic competitions and college preparation activities scheduled this semester that I can't afford to miss or perform poorly in if I want to maintain my competitive position for top-tier university admissions and scholarship opportunities. Jessica, your father has been diagnosed with cancer, I said, shocked by her focus on academic convenience rather than family crisis and her father's health and emotional needs during this frightening and uncertain time. We don't know exactly how long treatment will take or what the recovery process will involve, but family needs have to come first during this difficult period, and that means everyone adjusting their schedules and priorities to provide support and help where it's needed most. I understand that Dad is sick, she replied with the careful, measured tone that indicated she was saying what she thought we wanted to hear rather than expressing genuine concern, empathy, or willingness to make necessary sacrifices for family support. But I also can't let his illness negatively impact my chances for academic scholarships, college admissions, and the future opportunities I've been working toward for years. That wouldn't be good for anyone in our family in the long run, and I think Dad would want me to stay focused on my educational goals. Robert, who was sitting right there listening to this conversation despite feeling anxious and emotionally overwhelmed by his cancer diagnosis and the uncertainty about his treatment outcomes and recovery timeline, looked deeply hurt but not entirely surprised by Jessica's reaction and her immediate focus on how the illness might inconvenience her rather than showing concern for his well-being or offering emotional support during this crisis. Jessica, I'm not asking you to sacrifice your education or abandon your academic goals, he said quietly, with the patience and love of a father trying to maintain family relationships despite facing his own medical challenges and needing support from his family during the most stressful experience of his life. I'm just hoping you'll be around more to help your mother with some of the extra household work that my treatment might create, and maybe spend some time with me when I'm not feeling well and could use the company and emotional support that family provides during medical challenges. Of course, I'll help when I can, Jessica agreed readily, with the kind of immediate compliance that sounded cooperative but was actually conditional and limited. But I need to make sure that family responsibilities don't interfere with my academic priorities, college preparation deadlines, or my performance in competitions and activities that are crucial for my university applications and scholarship opportunities that could determine my entire future. What became clear over the following months of Robert's cancer treatment was that Jessica's definition of helping when I can meant helping only when it was convenient for her schedule, didn't require her to sacrifice anything she actually wanted to do, and didn't interfere with her academic timeline or social activities that she considered more important than supporting her father during medical treatment and recovery. Jessica's availability for family support was consistently limited by academic commitments, extracurricular activities, social plans, and personal interests that she presented as non-negotiable obligations that took priority over family medical needs and caregiving responsibilities that required flexibility and sacrifice when Robert needed transportation to medical appointments. Because post-surgery medications made him drowsy and unsafe to drive, Jessica was consistently unavailable due to academic obligations that she characterized as essential for her future success and more important than family medical needs. "I have advanced placement study group today," she would say when asked to provide transportation or accompany Robert to follow-up appointments that were important for monitoring his recovery and ensuring proper healing. "Missing these sessions could affect my test scores, which determine my college placement and scholarship eligibility. These opportunities can't be rescheduled, and my academic future depends on maintaining perfect attendance and performance. I have debate team practice today," she would explain when Robert needed help with household tasks that had become physically challenging during recovery when lifting restrictions and fatigue made routine activities exhausting. "Coach said missing practice could hurt my chances for state competition, which is really important for my college application portfolio and could determine scholarship opportunities that affect my entire future. I promised my study partner I'd help her with calculus preparation," she would offer when I asked her to spend time with Robert, who was feeling isolated and anxious during recovery periods when he needed emotional support and family companionship. To cope with the physical and psychological challenges of cancer treatment and recovery, the irony was both obvious and painful. Jessica was always available to help friends, classmates, study partners, and teachers with their academic projects, social plans, and personal needs, but never seemed to have time to help her own father during cancer treatment that was literally affecting his long-term health and our family's emotional well-being. She had learned to present herself as helpful, reliable, and caring to the outside world while reserving her most selfish behavior for family members who loved her unconditionally and had made enormous sacrifices to provide her with educational opportunities, financial support, and the stable home environment that enabled her academic success and social activities. When Robert's recovery extended longer than initially expected and he needed more intensive support with daily activities, emotional encouragement, and practical assistance with tasks that remained difficult during his healing process, Jessica's absence from family life became even more pronounced and deliberate. Instead of recognizing that her father was facing ongoing health challenges that required sustained family presence and support, Jessica seemed to increase her involvement in extracurricular activities and social commitments that kept her away from home and unavailable for caregiving responsibilities. "Jessica, your father is really struggling with some aspects of his recovery and could benefit from more family time and emotional support," I said during one of many conversations where I tried to help her understand the importance of family presence during medical challenges and recovery periods. "He needs to know that his family cares about him and that we're all committed to supporting him through this difficult period of healing and adjustment." "I do care about Dad," Jessica replied with what sounded like genuine confusion about why her behavior might suggest otherwise, "but I don't see how me sitting around the house being worried and stressed is going to help him recover faster or improve his medical outcomes. I think Dad would want me to keep focusing on my academic success and future achievements rather than getting depressed and distracted by his health problems." "It's not about sitting around being worried," I explained with increasing frustration about her inability to understand basic family support concepts. "It's about being present and available when he needs emotional support, companionship, or practical help. It's about showing him that he's more important to you than your extracurricular activities, social plans, and academic competitions." "But Mom, these activities are crucial for my college applications and my future opportunities," Jessica protested with logic that made her selfishness sound like responsible life planning. "Dad always told me that education and achievement should be my top priorities. I'm just following the values and advice he's given me throughout my childhood and academic development." Jessica had developed a sophisticated ability to reframe her selfishness as virtue, presenting her unwillingness to sacrifice for family as evidence that she was following family values about education and achievement rather than acknowledging that she simply didn't want to deal with the emotional demands, time commitments, and personal inconvenience of supporting a recovering parent and stressed mother during a family medical crisis. She could make her absence during our family's time of need sound like dedication to principles and responsible planning rather than recognizing that her priorities revealed fundamental character flaws and a lack of empathy that would define her approach to relationships throughout her adult life and eventually determine her access to family financial support and inheritance opportunities. During Jessica's college years at Colorado State University from 2017 to 2021, the concerning patterns that had emerged during high school intensified rather than improved, revealing that her self-centered approach to family relationships wasn't a temporary phase of adolescent development but a fundamental aspect of her character that would define her interactions with family, friends, and professional colleagues throughout her adult life when she assumed she was entitled to inherit our automotive empire without demonstrating the character necessary to handle such responsibility. Jessica's college experience should have provided opportunities for personal growth, character development, and broader perspective on relationships and responsibilities that come from living independently, facing new challenges, and interacting with diverse groups of people from different backgrounds, value systems, and life experiences. Instead, her university years became a laboratory for refining manipulation tactics, developing more sophisticated justifications for selfish behavior, and learning to extract maximum benefit from family financial support while minimizing her own investment in maintaining meaningful relationships or demonstrating appreciation for the substantial sacrifices Robert and I were making to fund her education. During Jessica's freshman year, our communication followed predictable patterns that revealed her transactional approach to family relationships. She maintained regular contact when she needed something specific, financial support for expenses that weren't covered by her substantial monthly allowance, career advice for internship applications and resume development, networking connections through my professional relationships in the automotive industry, or practical assistance with housing arrangements, transportation logistics, or academic planning that required adult guidance, experience, and financial resources. Our conversations during this period were pleasant but superficial, focused primarily on her achievements, social activities, academic progress, and future career plans rather than on building deeper emotional connections, expressing genuine interest in my adjustment to Robert's health challenges and recovery, or demonstrating appreciation for the financial sacrifices we were making to fund her education while managing our own career responsibilities, medical expenses, and retirement planning concerns. "How are your classes going this semester?" I would ask during our weekly phone calls, hoping to maintain connection and show interest in her college experience, academic development, and personal growth during her first year of independence. "Really well," she would reply with enthusiasm about her academic progress and social activities. "I'm maintaining a 3.9 GPA in my business administration program, and I've been selected for a competitive internship program with a major automotive dealership group that could lead to excellent job opportunities and professional connections after graduation." "That's wonderful, Jessica. How are you feeling emotionally about adjusting to college life and being away from home for the first time? Are you making good friends and building supportive relationships?" "Oh, I'm doing great with independence and meeting lots of people who could be valuable networking connections," she would respond with obvious eagerness to redirect our conversation away from emotional topics and toward practical matters where I could provide tangible benefits for her career development or personal goals. "Actually, speaking of my internship, I wanted to ask if you could put me in touch with your colleague who works in automotive financing. A personal recommendation from someone with your professional reputation would really help my application stand out from other candidates." Jessica had developed an impressive ability to redirect conversations away from emotional connection, family relationships, or topics that might require her to provide support or express concern for others, instead steering our interactions toward areas where she could gain useful contacts, advice, or resources that advanced her personal and professional objectives without requiring her to invest emotionally in maintaining genuine family relationships. This pattern continued throughout her college years, with Jessica maintaining the minimum level of family contact necessary to preserve access to financial support and networking opportunities while avoiding deeper engagement with family relationships that might require emotional investment, time commitment, or reciprocal support for my own challenges and needs during the ongoing adjustment period following Robert's cancer treatment and our concerns about long-term health monitoring. Jessica's approach to her internship and early professional experiences during college revealed the same self-focused patterns that had characterized her academic and family relationships throughout high school. She excelled at tasks that provided individual recognition and advancement opportunities, but consistently struggled with collaborative projects, teamwork responsibilities, and supporting colleagues who needed assistance, mentoring, or collaborative problem-solving. During her sophomore year internship with Rocky Mountain Auto Network, Jessica's supervisor, David Chen, contacted me to discuss her performance and work approach in ways that echoed the concerns her teachers had raised throughout her academic career about her inability to function effectively in collaborative environments and her unwillingness to support others or contribute to team success. "Mrs. Hartwell, Jessica is exceptionally talented and demonstrates excellent analytical skills, strategic thinking, and business acumen that could serve her well in automotive sales and management," Mr. Chen explained during a phone conversation about Jessica's internship evaluation and future career prospects. "But we've noticed some concerning patterns in her approach to teamwork, colleague relationships, and workplace collaboration that could limit her long-term success in automotive retail, which requires building and maintaining professional relationships based on trust, cooperation, mutual support, and long-term business partnerships with customers, suppliers, and team members." What specific issues are you observing? I asked, though I suspected the problems were similar to the patterns Jessica had displayed throughout her academic career and family relationships, where she excelled individually but struggled with collaboration and supporting others. Jessica excels at individual projects and assignments where she can control all aspects of the work and receive full credit for successful outcomes, Mr. Chen explained. Her sales performance reports are thorough and insightful, her customer interaction analyses are accurate and well-researched, and her presentation skills are excellent when she's representing her own work and achievements to management and senior staff. But when assigned to team projects or asked to mentor junior interns, she consistently prioritizes her own advancement and recognition over group success, collaborative achievement, or supporting colleagues who could benefit from her knowledge and experience. For example, during our recent customer satisfaction project that involved teams of interns working together to analyze service department feedback across multiple dealership locations, Jessica completed her assigned research thoroughly and professionally, producing excellent individual work that demonstrated her analytical capabilities and business understanding. But she refused to share insights, methodologies, or research strategies with teammates who were struggling with their portions of the analysis, even when their poor performance could negatively affect the entire team's evaluation and everyone's professional reputation with senior management. When we asked her to help train a new intern who was having difficulty with our customer relationship management software and sales tracking systems, Jessica's response was that training others wasn't part of her job description and that she had joined the internship program to advance her own skills and career prospects, not to provide free tutoring for people who should already understand basic business software and customer service principles. This feedback revealed that Jessica's self-centered approach to relationships was extending into her professional development and career preparation, where her unwillingness to support others and contribute to team success could seriously limit her long-term advancement opportunities in industries that require collaboration, relationship building, and mutual support among colleagues, clients, and business partners. When I discussed this evaluation with Jessica, her response demonstrated that she had continued developing increasingly sophisticated justifications for her selfish behavior, presenting her unwillingness to help others as strategic career management. Rather than recognizing that her approach reflected character flaws that could damage her professional reputation and limit her opportunities for advancement, leadership roles, and long-term success. Mom, internships are competitive opportunities where we're being evaluated for potential job offers, professional recommendations, and industry networking connections, she explained with the confident tone that made her selfishness sound like intelligent business strategy. If I spend my limited time helping other interns instead of focusing on my own projects, skill development, and relationship building with senior staff, I could hurt my own performance evaluation and reduce my chances for excellent references, job opportunities, and professional advancement. But Jessica, automotive retail is a relationship-based industry where success depends on building networks, establishing trust, and demonstrating that you can work effectively with customers, colleagues, and business partners over long-term professional relationships, I replied, trying to help her understand that professional success requires collaborative skills and reputation for supporting others, not just individual achievement. That's exactly why I need to focus on proving my individual capabilities and establishing my personal brand as a high-performing professional who delivers excellent results, she countered with logic that completely missed the point about teamwork, mutual support, and building professional relationships based on trust and collaboration. If I develop a reputation as someone who gets distracted by other people's problems instead of delivering superior individual performance, that could hurt my career prospects more than being known as someone who prioritizes excellence, individual achievement, and professional focus over workplace socializing and mentoring activities. Jessica was already developing the calculating approach to professional relationships that would later characterize her business practices and family interactions, viewing other people as either useful for her advancement or as obstacles to be avoided. Rather than understanding that genuine success requires building authentic relationships based on mutual benefit, long-term collaboration, and supporting others' success alongside your own achievements, after Jessica's graduation in May 2021, she accepted a position with Premier Auto Sales, a large automotive dealership group in Denver that specialized in luxury vehicles and high-end customer service. Her starting salary of $65,000 annually plus commission opportunities and performance bonuses provided her with financial independence and professional advancement prospects that should have reduced her focus on family financial support and allowed her to build her own career success without depending on family resources. Instead, Her new professional position seemed to increase her confidence about her business capabilities and strengthen her assumptions about eventually taking over our family's automotive businesses as both inheritance opportunity and career advancement strategy that would accelerate her professional development in the automotive industry while providing her with the luxury lifestyle she believed she deserved during her first year of professional work. Jessica's approach to our family relationship became increasingly focused on positioning herself as the logical successor to our business investments while demonstrating minimal interest in my personal welfare, Robert's ongoing health monitoring, or the emotional and practical challenges we continued to face as we approached retirement and dealt with the long-term implications of Robert's cancer history. Mom, now that I'm working in automotive sales professionally, I can see how much more efficiently our family dealerships could be managed with modern marketing systems, digital customer relationship management, and aggressive sales strategies. That could significantly increase profitability and market share, she would announce during her monthly visits, which had become brief consultations focused on business matters rather than family relationship building, emotional connection, or mutual support. I've been analyzing our customer retention rates, average sale prices, and profit margins, and I think there are significant opportunities to increase revenue through more sophisticated sales techniques and customer management strategies that could substantially increase our long-term wealth and business value. What kind of changes are you thinking about? I would ask, curious about her understanding of the customer relationships and business philosophy that had made our dealerships successful and profitable for decades. Well, several of our customers are paying below market prices because Dad apparently gave them loyalty discounts and special pricing that reduces our profit margins, she would explain with the confidence of someone who believed that maximum profit extraction was the primary goal of automotive sales, regardless of customer relationships or long-term business sustainability. We could probably increase our average sale price by 15 to 20% just by eliminating those unnecessary discounts and implementing dynamic pricing strategies that maximize profit on every transaction, plus we could add financing fees and service charges that other dealerships charge routinely. Jessica, your father maintained loyal customer relationships by providing fair pricing and exceptional service that justified our reputation and generated repeat business and referrals, I would reply, trying to help her understand that our business approach prioritized long-term customer satisfaction and community trust over short-term profit maximization. Many of these customers have been with us for years because they appreciate honest pricing and quality service rather than high-pressure sales tactics that could force them to shop elsewhere and damage the customer base that makes our dealerships attractive to other potential buyers. But Mom, leaving money on the table by giving unnecessary discounts is poor business practice that reduces the overall value of our automotive portfolio and limits our wealth-building potential, she would argue with the kind of business school logic that ignored the customer relationships, community trust, and long-term thinking that Robert and I had considered essential for sustainable automotive business success. Besides, if customers can't afford market-rate pricing, that probably means they can't afford the vehicles anyway and should be shopping at lower-end dealerships rather than expecting premium vehicles at discount prices that hurt our profitability. Jessica's approach to business management revealed the same patterns of short-term thinking and lack of empathy that had characterized her academic and family relationships throughout her development. She was focused on immediate financial gains rather than understanding that successful automotive business requires building and maintaining relationships based on trust, mutual benefit, and long-term sustainability that benefits both dealership owners and customer communities. More concerning was her attitude toward my role in business management and decision-making as she gained professional experience and confidence in her business capabilities. Instead of recognizing that I had been successfully managing our businesses while maintaining my demanding career at Mountain Peak Auto Group, Jessica seemed to view my management as temporary placeholder activity until she could take control and implement her preferred strategies. Mom, I really think it's time for me to start taking on more responsibility for the dealerships, she would suggest during our business discussions. You're doing an adequate job maintaining basic operations, but you don't have modern automotive sales experience or current industry knowledge, and there are opportunities for improvement and growth that require specialized expertise and strategic planning. I'm willing to gradually take on more responsibilities and eventually assume full management of the portfolio, she would continue, presenting herself as generous for offering to relieve me of business burdens that she assumed I found overwhelming and stressful. It would be better for everyone if someone with contemporary training, industry connections, and long-term career commitment handled the complex aspects of automotive business management while you focus on your personal interests and retirement planning. Jessica was positioning herself as the solution to problems that didn't actually exist, creating artificial urgency about transferring control of businesses that were operating successfully under my management. And assuming that her entry-level professional experience and business degree qualified her to manage substantial automotive portfolios better than someone who had been successfully handling the responsibilities while maintaining other professional obligations. But what Jessica didn't understand was that her approach to business relationships, family dynamics, and automotive management was providing me with invaluable information about her character, values, and capability to handle generational wealth responsibly. Every conversation about family finances, every suggestion about management changes, and every assumption about my limitations and her superior qualifications was revealing aspects of her personality that would ultimately determine whether she could be trusted with the business assets that Robert and I had worked decades to build and preserve. I was observing not just her professional competence and business knowledge, but her fundamental approach to relationships, responsibility, and moral obligations when she believed she was positioned to gain control of substantial assets and financial resources. Her treatment of me during this period, when she assumed I was dependent on her expertise and grateful for her willingness to take over complex business responsibilities, was providing critical data about how she would handle power, wealth, and relationships with people she viewed as less capable or important than herself. The stage was being set for Jessica to face the ultimate test of her character during a weather emergency that would reveal whether she viewed me as a family member, deserving care and respect, or as an inconvenient obligation that could be abandoned when providing support required personal sacrifice and disrupted her personal plans and professional priorities. During 2022 and early 2023, as Jessica established herself professionally and continued building her case for taking over automotive business responsibilities, her treatment of my minor transportation needs and routine errands revealed troubling patterns that foreshadowed her response to more serious emergency situations that would require sustained family support and personal sacrifice. When I mentioned needing assistance with transportation due to minor vehicle maintenance or routine errands that were challenging during severe weather, Jessica's responses were consistently focused on the potential impact on her schedule and convenience rather than concern for my safety and well-being. If I mentioned needing help with grocery shopping during winter storms or transportation to appointments during challenging weather conditions, her first reaction was always to suggest alternatives that would eliminate her personal involvement rather than offering family support. "Mom, maybe you should consider using grocery delivery services or ride-sharing for errands during bad weather," she would suggest when I mentioned needing assistance with essential shopping during snowstorms or ice conditions. That would be more reliable than depending on family members who have work schedules and professional commitments that can't always be adjusted for routine errands and shopping trips. Or, she would add, revealing her assumptions about my transportation needs and her role in providing family support, "You could schedule errands during better weather when road conditions are safer and don't require family assistance that interferes with work obligations and professional responsibilities." Jessica was already demonstrating that she viewed my transportation needs as inconveniences to be managed through commercial services rather than opportunities for family support and connection. She was establishing patterns of prioritizing her convenience over my needs that would ultimately cost her access to the substantial inheritance she assumed was her birthright. The weather emergency that would test Jessica's character and determine her financial future was approaching, and her response would reveal whether she had learned anything about family loyalty, respect for elderly relatives, and the true cost of assuming that aging parents are powerless and can be exploited without consequences when providing genuine support requires personal sacrifice and professional inconvenience. But Jessica had no idea that the mother she was planning to eventually inherit from was actually controlling significant financial resources and had the power to reward genuine family devotion or deliver consequences more expensive than she could imagine for family betrayal and exploitation during weather emergencies and transportation vulnerability. The storm that seemed like routine weather would become the most costly day of Jessica's life, and the abandonment she would commit would teach her that assumptions about elderly parents' financial dependence can destroy everything you thought you were working toward in ways that change your entire future permanently and irreversibly. The weather crisis that would reveal Jessica's true character and cost her access to a $4.2 million automotive inheritance began on Friday, November 17, 2023, with what initially seemed like routine winter weather that I attributed to normal seasonal changes in Colorado Springs during late fall when snowstorms and freezing temperatures become common and require additional preparation for grocery shopping and essential errands. At this stage of my life, I had maintained excellent health and independence throughout my career and post-Robert recovery period, with annual medical checkups consistently showing normal blood pressure, healthy cholesterol levels, strong bone density, and the kind of overall physical condition that my primary care physician, Dr. Sarah Martinez, described as exceptional for your age and activity level. I maintained an active lifestyle that included daily walks through my neighborhood when weather permitted, regular yoga classes at the community center, volunteer work with automotive literacy programs for low-income families, and travel that kept me physically and mentally engaged with community activities and social relationships. But during mid-November 2023, Colorado Springs was experiencing an unusually severe weather pattern with multiple storm systems bringing heavy snow, freezing rain, and dangerous wind conditions that made transportation challenging even for experienced winter drivers. The National Weather Service had issued winter storm warnings, travel advisories, and recommendations that residents avoid unnecessary trips and ensure they had adequate supplies for potential power outages and extended periods of severe weather. I had been monitoring weather forecasts carefully and planning my grocery shopping and essential errands around storm predictions, but the rapidly changing weather conditions meant that safe travel windows were unpredictable and required flexibility. With timing and transportation arrangements that might need family assistance or support during particularly dangerous conditions. On Friday morning, November 17th, weather forecasts indicated a brief clearing period between storm systems that would provide safe conditions for essential errands and grocery shopping before the next major storm front arrived Friday evening with heavy snow, freezing rain, and potentially dangerous wind conditions that could make transportation impossible for several days. This weather window provided the perfect opportunity to test Jessica's willingness to provide genuine family support during challenging weather conditions. And her response would reveal whether she viewed my safety and well-being as legitimate family responsibilities or inconvenient obligations that interfered with her personal plans and professional priorities. When I called Jessica to explain the weather situation and request transportation assistance for essential grocery shopping during the safe travel window, her immediate reaction was calculation about timing and inconvenience rather than concern about my safety during potentially dangerous weather conditions or the importance of ensuring I had adequate supplies before the severe storm arrived. "Mom, when do you need to go shopping?" Jessica asked when I explained that I needed help getting to Savimart during the brief clear weather period before the major storm arrived. "The Weather Service says we have a safe travel window from about 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. today," I replied. "After that, they're predicting heavy snow, freezing rain, and dangerous wind conditions that could make driving unsafe for several days." "Friday afternoon?" Jessica's tone immediately shifted to annoyance and schedule calculation. "That's really not convenient timing for me. I have plans with friends this evening, and I was hoping to leave work early to get ready for a dinner party that's really important for my professional networking and career development." "Jessica, this is essential grocery shopping before a major storm that could leave us without safe transportation for several days," I said, shocked that her first response was complaining about inconvenience rather than showing concern about potentially dangerous weather conditions that could affect my safety and access to food and essential supplies. "I understand it's grocery shopping," she replied with the tone of someone who is being asked to make unreasonable sacrifices for non-urgent matters, "but these weather forecasts are probably exaggerated, and the stores will be open again in a day or two when conditions improve. Surely this shopping trip could be postponed until the weekend when it's more convenient for everyone's schedule." "Jessica, the National Weather Service has issued winter storm warnings with predictions of dangerous travel conditions for the next 3 to 4 days, I explained, feeling hurt by her unwillingness to prioritize my safety over her social plans. "I need to get essential supplies today during the safe travel window, not wait until after the storm when conditions might be even more dangerous." "Okay, fine," Jessica agreed reluctantly after a pause that clearly indicated she was calculating the impact on her social schedule and looking for ways to minimize her time commitment and personal inconvenience. "But I can't spend the entire afternoon shopping. I'll drive you to the store and pick you up when you're finished, but I need to be done by 5 p.m. so I have time to get ready for my dinner party." "That should be sufficient time for essential shopping," I agreed, though I was already beginning to understand that Jessica viewed my weather-related safety needs as inconveniences to be managed efficiently rather than opportunities to provide family support and demonstrate care for my well-being during potentially dangerous weather conditions. "Just make sure you shop efficiently and don't spend extra time browsing or socializing," she continued, establishing the terms of her assistance in ways that minimized her time commitment and preserved her ability to maintain her social schedule, despite my safety needs and the potential for weather-related complications. "And Mom, try to keep the shopping list focused on absolute essentials. I really can't afford to have my entire afternoon disrupted by extended grocery shopping that could have been completed more efficiently or postponed until more convenient weather conditions." Jessica was already framing my storm preparation as probably unnecessary and definitely inconvenient, rather than understanding that helping elderly parents prepare for severe weather is a normal family responsibility that demonstrates care, support, and concern for their safety and well-being during potentially dangerous conditions. On Friday afternoon, November 17, 2023, Jessica arrived at my house at 2:30 p.m. to provide transportation to Savimart for essential storm preparation shopping, but her behavior during the drive revealed her resentment about the time commitment and her assumptions about my weather preparation needs and the likely duration of the shopping trip. "Mom, I want you to understand that I'm rearranging important social plans to help you with this shopping trip," she announced as we drove to Savimart, immediately establishing that her assistance was a significant sacrifice that I should appreciate and reciprocate by minimizing the time required and being grateful for her personal inconvenience. "I have a networking dinner tonight with people from the automotive industry who could be really important for my career advancement and professional development, and being late or missing this event could seriously affect my opportunities for job advancement and industry connections. I appreciate you taking time from your social plans to help me," I replied, feeling guilty about the inconvenience while also feeling disappointed by her focus on networking obligations rather than family support during potentially dangerous weather conditions. "Just make sure you're efficient with the shopping and don't get distracted by non-essential items or socializing with other shoppers," Jessica continued with instructions that revealed her priorities and expectations about how my storm preparation should be managed to accommodate her social schedule. "Remember that I need to leave by 5 p.m. to get ready for my dinner, so we need to complete everything quickly and efficiently." "Jessica, storm preparation shopping takes as long as it takes," I said, feeling increasingly uncomfortable with her approach to my safety needs and her assumptions that weather preparation should be rushed to accommodate her social commitments. "I can't control how crowded the store is or whether they have all the supplies I need in stock during storm preparation periods. But you can make sure you have a focused shopping list and don't spend unnecessary time on items that aren't absolutely essential for a few days of winter weather," she replied with the tone of someone who believed that storm preparation should be managed like routine errands with predictable timeframes and controllable outcomes. "If you focus on basic necessities and avoid getting distracted by other shoppers or store displays, we should be able to complete everything efficiently and still give me adequate time to prepare for my important networking dinner that could determine future career opportunities." Jessica was essentially asking me to prioritize her social schedule over thorough storm preparation, and to rush through essential shopping to accommodate her networking dinner rather than ensuring that I had adequate supplies for several days of potentially dangerous weather conditions that could leave me isolated at home without transportation or access to stores. When we arrived at Savimart, Jessica's parting instructions revealed the extent to which she viewed my storm preparation as an inconvenient obligation that she was fulfilling with minimal investment and maximum expectation of efficiency and consideration for her own priorities and social advancement opportunities. "Mom, I'll have my phone with me, so call me as soon as you're completely finished shopping," she said as I got out of her BMW in the Savimart parking lot. "And remember, I have that crucial networking dinner tonight, so try to complete everything by 4:30 p.m. at the latest so I have adequate time to get home, get ready, and arrive at the restaurant on time for this important professional opportunity." "What if the store is more crowded than expected or they're out of essential items that require checking multiple departments?" I asked, concerned about being pressured to rush storm preparation because of Jessica's social schedule constraints and her unwillingness to adjust her networking commitments for family weather safety needs. "Just do the best you can to shop efficiently and avoid unnecessary delays," she replied with the vague confidence of someone who had never faced serious weather emergencies or understood the importance of thorough storm preparation that couldn't be hurried to accommodate other people's convenience and social priorities. "And if it looks like shopping is going to take significantly longer than planned, call me so I can figure out alternative transportation arrangements rather than having my entire evening and important career networking opportunities disrupted by extended grocery shopping that probably won't be necessary anyway." As Jessica drove away, leaving me standing outside Savimart with the understanding that my storm preparation needed to be completed quickly and efficiently to avoid inconveniencing her networking dinner and career advancement opportunities, I began to realize that this shopping trip would provide the ultimate test of her character and priorities when family support required genuine sacrifice rather than minimal effort and grudging assistance. The storm preparation shopping proceeded exactly as weather emergencies typically do, involving crowded aisles, limited stock of essential items, and long checkout lines as the entire community prepared for the predicted severe weather. By 4:15 p.m., I had gathered most of my essential supplies, but the store was crowded with other customers doing storm preparation, and checkout lines were moving slowly as cashiers dealt with increased customer volume and supply shortages. At 4:45 p.m., while I was still waiting in the checkout line with a cart full of essential supplies, the weather conditions outside began deteriorating rapidly as the predicted storm front arrived earlier than forecasted. Heavy snow began falling, visibility decreased dramatically, and wind conditions intensified to the point where safe driving was becoming questionable even for experienced winter drivers. At 5:10 p.m., while I was still completing my checkout process. In increasingly dangerous weather conditions, my phone buzzed with a text message from Jessica that would cost her everything she thought she was working toward. The message read, "Where are you? I've been waiting 20 minutes and I'm already late for my dinner. This is ridiculous, I can't sit here all night waiting for you to finish shopping. Figure it out yourself, Mom. I have important people to meet and you're making me look unprofessional by being late to industry networking that could determine my entire career." I stared at this message in complete disbelief as the storm intensified outside and other shoppers began expressing concern about the rapidly deteriorating weather conditions and dangerous driving visibility. My daughter was abandoning me at a grocery store during the beginning of a major winter storm because my essential shopping had interfered with her networking dinner and professional social obligations, but Jessica had made the most catastrophic miscalculation of her life. What she didn't know was that the BMW X5 she was driving was actually registered in my name, not hers. The employee discount she had received for the vehicle was actually my gift to her family, paid for through the automotive business empire she didn't know I controlled. More importantly, Jessica had no idea that her helpless old mother was actually the owner of Premier Auto Sales where she worked, the silent partner in her investment portfolio, and the beneficiary of a family trust that controlled $4.2 million in automotive assets that she had assumed would eventually be her inheritance. For 3 years, I had been conducting the ultimate character test, allowing Jessica to believe that I was dependent on her assistance while actually controlling every aspect of her financial life and professional success. Her treatment of me during this test period, culminating in her abandonment during a dangerous winter storm because helping me interfered with her career networking, had revealed exactly who she was when she believed she held all the power. And I was vulnerable to her abandonment and neglect. At 5:30 p.m. While I was still stranded inside Savamart as the storm intensified outside and power began flickering due to wind and ice conditions, I called my attorney, Patricia Williams, and my business manager, Robert Chen, to implement comprehensive changes to my estate planning and business arrangements that would reflect Jessica's true character as demonstrated during this weather emergency. Ms. Williams, I need to make immediate and significant changes to my will, business ownership arrangements, and all financial structures that currently benefit my daughter, I explained during our phone consultation while sheltering in the grocery store during a dangerous winter storm that Jessica had left me to face alone. Today's events have revealed character issues that make it clear my daughter cannot be trusted with family wealth, business ownership, or customer relationships that affect many families' transportation needs and financial security. Mrs. Hartwell, what specific changes are you considering? She asked with appropriate concern about major estate planning decisions made during weather emergencies and family abandonment situations. I want to remove Jessica completely from any inheritance considerations, transfer ownership of all automotive businesses currently in family trusts, and redirect my entire estate to benefit organizations that support elderly people facing family abandonment during weather emergencies, I explained, describing the full scope of consequences that Jessica's behavior had earned through her abandonment and neglect. That would affect the BMW she's been driving, the dealership where she works, and the $4.2 million in automotive assets that she believes she's going to inherit, Ms. Williams confirmed, beginning to understand the magnitude of Jessica's miscalculation and the extent of financial control she had never realized I possessed. While I was making these calls from inside Savamart during the storm, I also contacted Marcus Rodriguez, a cash car buyer I knew through the automotive industry, who specialized in purchasing luxury vehicles quickly and efficiently. Marcus, I have a 2023 BMW X5 in the Savamart parking lot that I need to sell immediately for cash, I explained. The vehicle is registered in my name, and I can provide all necessary documentation. Are you available to complete the transaction tonight? Absolutely, Mrs. Hartwell. I can be there in 30 minutes with cash and all necessary paperwork, he replied. What's your asking price for immediate sale? $62,000 cash, and you can take it tonight, I said, pricing the vehicle for quick sale while ensuring Jessica would understand the true cost of abandoning family during weather emergencies. Done. I'll see you at Savamart within the hour. At 6:45 p.m., while Jessica was enjoying her networking dinner and congratulating herself on prioritizing her career advancement over family obligations during a winter storm, Marcus Rodriguez arrived at Savamart with $62,000 cash and completed the purchase of her BMW X5 right there in the snowy parking lot. The estate planning changes were completed electronically that evening, While Jessica was building professional relationships and assuming that her abandonment of me during dangerous weather was a reasonable sacrifice for career advancement and networking opportunities that were more important than family support. During emergencies. My Newell directed the entire $4.2 million automotive empire to a charitable trust that would provide transportation assistance to elderly people facing family abandonment during weather emergencies, fund improvements to automotive safety programs for senior drivers, and support advocacy services that protect vulnerable adults from family exploitation and financial abuse by relatives who view them as inconvenient obligations rather than people deserving respect and care. The automotive businesses that Jessica had been working toward inheriting were transferred to professional management companies that would implement the charitable trust's mission of providing affordable, reliable transportation services for elderly community members and families facing transportation challenges. Jessica's employment at Premier Auto Sales was terminated immediately when the ownership transfer revealed her character issues and abandonment of elderly family members during weather emergencies, but the consequences for Jessica extended far beyond losing her inheritance and employment. Over the following days, she would discover the full extent of her miscalculation and the true cost of abandoning someone she believed was financially powerless but who actually controlled her entire economic foundation. When Jessica returned home from her networking dinner that night and discovered that her BMW was missing from the driveway, her initial assumption was that the vehicle had been stolen during the storm. But when she called police to report the theft, she learned that the vehicle had been legally sold by its registered owner, me, and that she had no legal claim to a car she had never actually owned. Her attempts to contact me were unsuccessful, because I was staying at the Broadmoor Hotel while my home's power was restored after the storm. And I had decided that Jessica's first contact after abandoning me during a weather emergency would not be a casual phone call but a formal meeting with attorneys present to discuss the consequences of her actions. When Jessica finally reached me 3 days later, her panic was obvious as she began to understand that her assumptions about vehicle ownership and family financial arrangements had been completely wrong. "Mom, what happened to my car?" she asked with desperation and confusion. "I sold the BMW that was registered in my name to a cash buyer for $62,000, I replied calmly. "Since you made it clear that providing family support during weather emergencies was too inconvenient for your career priorities, I decided you no longer needed access to a vehicle that I owned and had been providing as a family gift." "But Mom, that was my car. I need it for work and daily transportation." Jessica protested with growing panic as she realized that her understanding of our financial arrangements had been fundamentally wrong. "It was a vehicle registered in my name that I had been allowing you to use," I corrected. "Your assumption that you owned the car was based on your belief that I was financially dependent on your assistance rather than understanding that I was testing your character and observing how you treat elderly family members when you believe they're vulnerable to abandonment." "Mom, this is crazy," Jessica said with anger and desperation. "You can't destroy my transportation and career over one weather emergency where I had work conflicts and couldn't cancel important business networking." "I'm not destroying your career," I replied. "I'm protecting automotive businesses that you would misuse while continuing to abandon elderly family members as inconvenient obligations rather than treating them with dignity, respect, and genuine care during weather emergencies and challenging situations. You have professional experience and the ability to build your own career success without exploiting elderly relatives. But you don't have the character necessary to handle inherited wealth responsibly or treat family members with basic human decency during weather emergencies." But the consequences for Jessica extended far beyond losing her vehicle. Over the following weeks, she would discover that her employment termination from Premier. The consequences for Jessica extended far beyond losing her BMW and discovering her complete misunderstanding of our family's financial arrangements. Over the following weeks, she would learn the full scope of her miscalculation and understand that abandoning me during a winter storm had cost her more than she could have imagined possible. When Jessica's employment at Premier Auto Sales was terminated the day after the storm, she initially assumed it was related to her absence from work due to transportation issues. But when she met with the Human Resources Director, she discovered that Premier Auto Sales had been sold to new ownership that had no tolerance for employees who abandoned elderly family members during weather emergencies. "Ms. Hartwell, we've received information about your character and treatment of elderly family members that makes you unsuitable for our customer service standards," the HR Director, Maria Santos, explained during Jessica's termination meeting. "Our new ownership requires employees who demonstrate integrity, compassion, and reliability, especially when dealing with elderly customers who may need extra assistance and consideration." "What are you talking about?" Jessica asked with growing confusion and panic. "I've had excellent performance reviews and strong sales numbers. My personal life shouldn't affect my employment. When your personal life involves abandoning your 70-year-old mother during a dangerous winter storm because helping her interfered with your social plans, it absolutely affects your suitability for a position that requires trustworthiness and customer care, Maria replied firmly. Our elderly customers need to know they can trust our staff to prioritize their safety and well-being, not abandon them when assistance becomes inconvenient. Jessica's attempts to find new employment in the automotive industry were consistently unsuccessful as word spread about her character issues and family abandonment. The automotive community in Colorado Springs was close-knit, and employers were reluctant to hire someone whose treatment of elderly family members suggested she couldn't be trusted with vulnerable customers during challenging situations. Her financial situation deteriorated rapidly without her salary and commission income. The luxury apartment she had been renting became unaffordable, forcing her to move to a much smaller, less expensive place. Her social lifestyle, professional wardrobe, and networking activities, all funded by her automotive industry income, became impossible to maintain on unemployment benefits and part-time retail work. But Jessica's most devastating discovery came when she tried to access what she believed were family financial accounts and investment funds that she assumed would be available during her financial crisis. Her attempts to contact our family financial advisor revealed that she had never been listed as a beneficiary on any accounts, and that her assumptions about inherited wealth had been completely wrong. Jessica, your mother was very clear that you were not to have access to any family financial accounts or business assets, our longtime financial advisor, Patricia Hayes, explained during a phone conversation that shattered Jessica's remaining assumptions about her financial future. These restrictions were put in place several years ago based on character assessments and family dynamics that suggested you weren't prepared for the responsibility of managing substantial wealth. But I'm her daughter. Surely I have some legal right to family inheritance and business assets, Jessica protested with desperation as her understanding of our financial arrangements collapsed entirely. Your mother has the legal right to distribute her assets to whomever she chooses, and she's chosen to redirect her entire estate to charitable organizations that support elderly people facing family abandonment, Patricia explained. Your behavior during recent weather emergencies confirmed her assessment that you lack the character necessary for responsible wealth management. Jessica's attempts to challenge the estate planning changes through legal action were unsuccessful because the documents had been properly executed, witnessed, and notarized according to Colorado law. Her behavior during the storm had been documented through text messages, witness statements, and police reports that supported the conclusion that she had voluntarily abandoned an elderly parent during dangerous weather conditions. The legal fees for her unsuccessful challenge consumed most of her remaining savings, leaving her financially devastated and professionally blacklisted in the automotive industry, where her actions had become widely known and discussed as an example of how not to treat elderly family members. 6 months after the storm, Jessica made desperate attempts to reconcile our relationship and restore her inheritance status through improved behavior, emotional manipulation, and promises about future family support that would never be tested because the opportunity for earning generational wealth and family financial backing had been permanently lost through her actions during my time of need. Mom, I made a mistake during the storm, but I've learned from the experience and I want to rebuild our relationship, she pleaded during one of many phone calls where she tried to convince me that her abandonment had been a temporary lapse in judgment rather than a revelation of her true character. I understand now that family should come first, and I'm committed to being the daughter you deserve and providing the support and care you need as you get older. Jessica, your behavior during the storm wasn't a mistake, it was a choice that revealed your true priorities when family support required personal sacrifice, I replied. You chose your networking dinner over my safety during a dangerous weather emergency, and that choice reflected your fundamental view of me as an inconvenient obligation rather than a family member deserving care and respect. But Mom, people can change and learn from their mistakes, she argued with the kind of desperate logic that suggested she was finally beginning to understand the magnitude of what she had lost. I'm willing to prove my commitment to being a better daughter and providing the family support you deserve. Jessica, the time for proving your character was during the storm when I needed help, not afterward when you discovered the financial consequences of your abandonment, I explained. Character isn't demonstrated through promises made after you realize you've lost something valuable, it's revealed through actions taken when you believe no one important is watching or when helping others requires genuine sacrifice. The charitable organizations that received my estate began implementing programs that provided transportation assistance, weather emergency support, and advocacy services for elderly people facing family abandonment. The $4.2 million automotive empire that Jessica had assumed would be her inheritance now funded transportation services for hundreds of elderly community members who had been abandoned by their own families during weather emergencies and other challenging situations. The Savamart parking lot where Jessica had abandoned me became the site of a new mobile automotive service program that provided basic car maintenance and emergency transportation for elderly residents during severe weather conditions. The program was funded through the sale of Jessica's BMW and named the Family Loyalty Transportation Initiative in honor of the importance of genuine family support during difficult circumstances. Jessica's story became a cautionary tale within the automotive industry and among estate planning professionals about the importance of character assessment when considering generational wealth transfer. Her abandonment during a winter storm demonstrated how quickly assumed inheritance rights can disappear when behavior reveals fundamental character flaws that make someone unsuitable for handling substantial assets and family business responsibilities. Today, at 70 years old, I am healthy, independent, and surrounded by the charitable organizations, community volunteers, and genuine friends who provide authentic care and support without expecting inheritance benefits or financial compensation in return. My estate planning reflects my values and priorities rather than the manipulative demands of family members who proved they couldn't be trusted during my most vulnerable moment in a grocery store parking lot during a dangerous winter storm. The text message that seemed so urgent to Jessica while she was networking at her dinner proved to be the most expensive communication of her life. Her decision to prioritize career advancement over family emergency support cost her more money than most people earn in several lifetimes, and destroyed a professional reputation she had spent years building on a foundation of family exploitation and elderly abandonment, sometimes being left stranded in a grocery store during a storm leads to changing your emergency contact from your daughter to your attorney, and changing your will to reflect who truly deserves your wealth when family shows their real character during weather emergencies by abandoning you. For networking dinners while you're trying to survive dangerous conditions alone, the winter storm I faced alone became the most valuable test Jessica never passed, and the most expensive lesson about the true cost of assuming that elderly parents are powerless, financially dependent, and unable to defend themselves against abandonment and neglect when family support requires genuine sacrifice rather than calculating the benefits of maintaining relationships with people you view as inconvenient obligations rather than family members deserving unconditional care and respect. Never underestimate the power of an apparently vulnerable elderly person who might just be testing your character while holding the keys to your entire financial future. Especially when they're stranded in a grocery store during a dangerous storm and you're sending text messages about networking dinners instead of providing the family support and genuine concern that weather emergencies require from people who claim to love you. The BMW that disappeared from Jessica's driveway will serve as a permanent reminder that family loyalty during weather emergencies shouldn't be conditional on convenience, and that assuming elderly parents are financially powerless can result in consequences that destroy everything you thought you were working toward, while teaching you the true cost of prioritizing networking dinners over basic human decency during dangerous winter storms. My final message to viewers: never abandon family during storms, literal or metaphorical, because you never know who might be watching, evaluating, and making decisions about your future based on your character when you think no one important is paying attention to your treatment of vulnerable family members during their time of greatest need. The true magnitude of Jessica's miscalculation became clear 18 months after the storm, when the ripple effects of her character failure had spread far beyond our family and transformed an entire community's approach to elderly care and family responsibility. What started as one daughter's abandonment during a winter emergency had evolved into a powerful force for protecting vulnerable elderly people throughout Colorado Springs and beyond. The Family Loyalty Transportation Initiative that I established, using the proceeds from Jessica's BMW sale, had grown into the most comprehensive elderly support program in the state. Within the first year, we had helped over 800 elderly residents maintain their independence and dignity during weather emergencies, medical appointments, and essential errands that their own families had deemed too inconvenient to support. Maria Gonzalez, an 82-year-old retired teacher, was one of our first beneficiaries. Her son had moved to California and rarely visited, leaving her stranded during a severe ice storm when her car wouldn't start. "Mrs. Hartwell, your program saved my life that night," she told me during our annual appreciation dinner. "But more than that, it showed me that family isn't just about blood relations, it's about people who care enough to show up when others won't." The program had sparked a movement. Local businesses began implementing elderly emergency response policies, requiring employees to prioritize elderly customers during severe weather. 3 major automotive dealerships in Colorado Springs adopted mandatory training on elderly customer care, with Jessica's story serving as a case study in how not to treat vulnerable family members or customers, but Jessica's consequences extended far beyond her personal financial ruin. Her husband Mark, whom she had married 6 months before the storm, filed for divorce when he discovered the extent of her character issues and the family wealth she had lost through her abandonment. During divorce proceedings, it was revealed that Mark had been primarily attracted to Jessica's assumed inheritance prospects and automotive industry connections rather than genuine love or respect for her character. "I married someone I thought came from a wealthy, successful family with strong values," Mark testified during their divorce hearing. "Instead, I discovered I had married someone capable of abandoning her elderly mother during a dangerous storm for a networking dinner. That level of selfishness and poor character makes it impossible to build a trustworthy marriage or family relationship." The divorce left Jessica with virtually nothing. Mark retained their shared assets, arguing successfully that Jessica's loss of inheritance due to character failures constituted a fundamental misrepresentation of her family financial status that had influenced his decision to marry her. The judge agreed, noting that Jessica's treatment of elderly family members raised serious concerns about her ability to honor marriage commitments or care for family members during challenging circumstances. Jessica's professional blacklisting had expanded beyond the automotive industry. When she applied for positions in retail sales, customer service, and business management, background checks consistently revealed her family abandonment story and character issues. Employers across multiple industries began viewing elderly care as a critical indicator of employee trustworthiness and reliability. "If someone can abandon their own mother during a dangerous storm, how can we trust them with our customers during challenging situations?" explained Rebecca Thompson, hiring manager at a major retail chain where Jessica had applied for a management position. Customer service requires empathy, reliability, and the ability to prioritize others' needs over personal convenience. Jessica's documented behavior suggests she lacks these fundamental qualities. Meanwhile, the automotive empire that Jessica had lost continued thriving under professional management that prioritized community service, elderly support, and ethical business practices. The dealerships implemented senior citizen discount programs, elderly-friendly service scheduling, and transportation assistance for customers who needed help getting to appointments or picking up their vehicles after service. The business model that Jessica had wanted to change to maximize profit extraction was actually enhanced by focusing on community care and elderly support. Customer loyalty increased dramatically when seniors felt valued and supported rather than pressured or exploited. Referrals from satisfied elderly customers brought in families across multiple generations, creating a customer base built on trust, respect, and genuine care rather than aggressive sales tactics and profit maximization. Eleanor's approach to business has taught us that taking care of elderly customers isn't just morally right, it's also incredibly good for business, explained David Rodriguez, the new general manager of our largest dealership. "When seniors know they can trust us to treat them with dignity and respect, they bring their children, grandchildren, and friends. We're not just selling cars, we're building relationships that last generations." The charitable trust that controlled my automotive empire had also established the Jessica Hartwell Memorial Scholarship, named ironically to ensure her story would serve as a permanent reminder of the consequences of elderly abandonment. The scholarship provided automotive industry training for young people who demonstrated exceptional character, empathy, and commitment to serving elderly community members. Scholarship recipients were required to volunteer with elderly transportation services, complete training in senior customer care, and write essays about the importance of family loyalty and community responsibility. The scholarship had become one of the most prestigious awards in Colorado's automotive industry, with recipients consistently going on to leadership positions where they implemented elderly-friendly policies and practices. But the most powerful consequence of Jessica's actions was the transformation of elderly care awareness throughout our community. The storm abandonment story had been featured in local newspapers, television news segments, and national publications about elderly abuse and family responsibility. Jessica's name had become synonymous with the worst kind of family betrayal. While the Transportation Initiative had inspired similar programs in dozens of other cities. 3 years after the storm, I received a call from the Colorado State Legislature asking me to testify in support of the Elderly Emergency Protection Act, legislation that would require businesses and organizations to implement special protocols for serving elderly customers during severe weather and emergency situations. The law would also establish legal protections for elderly people facing family abandonment and financial exploitation. "Mrs. Hartwell, your daughter's story has opened our eyes to a widespread problem we hadn't fully recognized," explained State Senator Patricia Wilson during our meeting to discuss the legislation. The number of elderly people being abandoned or exploited by their own families during emergencies is staggering. Your experience and the positive response you've created have shown us both the problem and potential solutions. The legislation passed unanimously, with Jessica's storm abandonment serving as the primary case study in committee hearings and legislative debates. The law required businesses to maintain emergency contact lists for elderly customers, implement severe weather assistance protocols, and report suspected elderly abandonment to social services. It also established civil penalties for family members who abandoned elderly relatives during documented emergency situations. During the bill signing ceremony, Governor Michaelchin specifically mentioned Jessica's story as a catalyst for protecting vulnerable elderly residents. No elderly person should ever face what Eleanor Hartwell experienced, being abandoned by family during a dangerous storm because helping was considered inconvenient. This legislation ensures that such abandonment will have legal consequences, and that communities have resources to step in when families fail in their basic responsibilities. Meanwhile, Jessica's attempts at rebuilding her life had been consistently unsuccessful. Her reputation followed her across state lines, with employers, landlords, and even dating partners discovering her story through internet searches and social media discussions. The storm abandonment had become her defining characteristic, overshadowing any other accomplishments or positive qualities she might have possessed. She had moved to Phoenix, Arizona, hoping to escape her reputation and start fresh, but the automotive industry network was extensive and connected. Her story had spread throughout the western United States automotive community, making employment in her chosen field impossible anywhere in the region. Jessica's last attempt to contact me came on the 5-year anniversary of the storm. Her message was filled with desperation and what sounded like genuine remorse, but it was too late for redemption or forgiveness. "Mom, I know I can never undo what I did during the storm, and I understand why you can't forgive me," she said through tears. "I see the programs you've created, the people you're helping, and the positive impact you're making with the money I lost. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I want you to know that losing everything taught me what really matters. I just learned it too late to matter for us." But forgiveness wasn't the issue, consequences were. Jessica's character failure during the storm hadn't been a momentary lapse in judgment that could be forgiven and forgotten. It had been a revelation of her fundamental values and priorities when family support required genuine sacrifice. The storm had simply provided the circumstances that revealed who she really was when she thought no one important was watching. The transportation program now served over 2,000 elderly residents annually, with a fleet of 12 vehicles staffed by trained volunteers who understood that mobility is dignity, independence is precious, and elderly people deserve respect and care regardless of their family situations. The program had prevented countless emergency situations, maintained independence for seniors who might otherwise have been forced into institutional care, and created a model that was being replicated nationwide. 5 years after the storm, I was invited to speak at the National Conference on Elderly Care and Family Responsibility, where Jessica's story had become a landmark case study in understanding the warning signs of family exploitation and abandonment. My presentation, titled "When Family Fails, Building Community Safety Nets for Vulnerable Elderly," was attended by social workers, legislators, healthcare professionals, and community leaders from across the country. "The most important lesson from my experience isn't that families sometimes fail elderly members," I told the audience of 800 professionals. "It's that communities have the power and responsibility to step in when families abandon their most basic obligations. We can't control whether adult children will choose convenience over character, but we can ensure that elderly people have alternatives when family support disappears." The standing ovation lasted 4 minutes, but more importantly, the conference resulted in commitments from 47 cities to implement similar transportation and emergency support programs for elderly residents facing family abandonment. Today, as I approach my 75th birthday, I am surrounded by the genuine family I chose rather than the family I was born with. The volunteers, staff members, and program beneficiaries of our transportation initiative have become my true community, people who understand that family loyalty is earned through actions, not inherited through blood relations. Jessica's BMW, which I sold for $62,000 during that storm 5 years ago, has generated over $800,000 in community impact through the programs it funded. Every elderly person who received transportation to a medical appointment, every senior who got essential supplies during a storm, and every vulnerable adult who found support during a family crisis represents the true value of that vehicle, not as a luxury possession, but as a tool for creating dignity, independence, and community care. The greatest irony is that Jessica's selfish act of abandonment created more positive impact for elderly people than her inheritance ever could have achieved. Her character failure became the catalyst for systematic change that protected thousands of vulnerable adults and inspired a nationwide movement for elderly rights and community responsibility. Sometimes the most profound justice comes not from punishment, but from transformation, taking the worst example of family failure and using it to build the strongest possible protection for others facing similar abandonment. Jessica's legacy isn't the inheritance she lost, but the movement she accidentally created by showing the world exactly how not to treat elderly family members during their time of greatest need. The storm that revealed Jessica's true character also revealed my true purpose, ensuring that no elderly person ever faces what I experienced in that Savamart parking lot. And that communities everywhere understand their responsibility to step in when families step away. That's the real story behind the BMW that disappeared from my daughter's driveway, not the loss of a luxury vehicle, but the birth of a movement that continues protecting elderly people every single day, funded by the consequences of one daughter's choice to prioritize networking over family, convenience over character, and personal advancement over basic human decency during a winter storm that changed everything forever. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell, so you don't miss any upload from us.